Hello everyone, and welcome back to a pretty special episode of Creepy Things from Family-Friendly Games. As, check our watches, this is about the perfect time of year to talk about things like this. Today, again, we have quite a few suggestions from you guys on previous episodes in the comments, so thank you all for today's entries. And as always, please leave your creepy moments from games like today's for a chance to be featured in a future episode. I hope you all have a great Halloween if you celebrate it, and it's time to take another look at some creepy moments from games we otherwise wouldn't expect these moments from. I mean, we've done enough of these now, guys, right? I just have to expect it. What kind of horrid Disney bullshit are we gonna see today? I guess there's only one way to find out. To start off today's video, we'll be looking at a pretty uncommon genre of game to see creepy stuff from, a genre of game we haven't really covered before in the series, and that's the concerningly addicting simulator genre. World of Subways Volume 4 was the fourth entry into the World of Subway series that first released in 2008. The games were pretty early to the simulator trend we honestly see a little bit too much of today in my opinion, and offered fairly standard simulation gameplay. In terms of your average mission, you are maintaining and driving a subway car that you typically find in your bigger cities like New York City or London or something like that. The mission-to-mission environments you see are already pretty creepy as you are fully in control of the driver and see everything they see, including the dark tunnels ahead of you as you're coasting down these subways. But again, not everything's that dark. You'll be outside a lot too. Luckily, it isn't until the secret mission where you'll actually have to worry about anything being down in the subways with you as a threat. In a complete 180 from your typical duties as a subway conductor, this bonus mission will see you traveling through an abandoned subway tunnel on foot without any protection. This mission will start when you are talking to your coworker Brian in modern day, who is telling of the story of the time he had to recover an inoperable subway car on foot. At the end of the explanation, you are prompted to start the mission where you are able to play out Brian's urban exploration gone wrong, where he explores one of the creepiest environments you could be in. Now, without the protection of a huge several-ton metal barrier in your way, you must trek through the dark abandoned subway tunnels on foot, and pretty quickly it becomes horrifying. Immediately when you start walking in this mission, you will hear the crowd of people scream in terror, as if some sort of tragedy just happened, and you're hearing the ghostly sounds of those affected. As you begin walking further down the tunnel, you'll hear more ambient screams, and one distinct scream that forces the player to stop in their tracks and shut off their flashlight. The game warns that this and other screams like it will keep happening and the player must halt every time in their place, otherwise they run the risk of being caught by the serial killer mentioned by Brian earlier. As you finally roll up to the train you need to retrieve, you will find that both the braking lever and the direction lever have been taken and left deeper into the subway tunnel. Great, dude. Totally didn't want to get the fuck out of here anytime soon or anything. Yeah, that's fine. As you enter further into the subway tunnel, you will start being jump scared by screams and light hallucinations like the following. Hey guys, least us forget, right? This is a simple subway train simulator game and not a mission in Condemned or a game like that, you know? You'll end up finding the braking lever near a payphone and the direction lever can be found a little bit further down in the dark, foggy tunnel. Once you get both of these parts, it's time to turn back around and make it back to the abandoned subway car, all while pausing a bunch anytime you hear any bump in the night. Like you're fucking Cindy Lou Who, dude. Once you make it back to the subway car you need to retrieve, you can power it on and escape the creepy tunnel once and for all. Overall, the mission isn't all that hard or anything, just kind of tedious, as if you're caught moving during these noises, you'll just get a game over and have to start over at a checkpoint. While the mission didn't go super creepy or graphic, because we were dealing with a serial killer here, it still presented a terrifying mission in a game that otherwise shouldn't have any of these missions in it, and in a game that probably didn't want to surpass the 7+ age rating, so it's really not surprising we don't see the actual serial killer or anything, but for what is here, it's pretty terrifying. I love the idea of like oddball games like this, like simulator games having creepy secrets in it. And considering this is a bonus mission, it's not like it's in the forefront of everyone playing World of Subways Volume 4, so it just works so well. Thanks for the suggestion, and to anyone who ever came across this mission naturally. I'm sure public transportation in big cities is a huge nightmare for you, so even more of a nightmare than it already is for everybody else. The Harvest Moon series has never been shy to take on some darker themes in their games, and is something that set the games apart from other life simulators. One of my favorite Harvest Moon games is A Wonderful Life, which is filled to the brim with depressing and dark scenes, so I always enjoy seeing just how dark these games get. Nowadays, the Harvest Moon and, well, Story of Seasons series don't really play too much into the darker topics, but man, back in the day, you'd be hard-pressed not to find something a little bit off in a Harvest Moon game. Harvest Moon DS was no exception and might have the most amount of fucked up stuff that can happen in any Harvest Moon game. I don't know, jury's out. For example, the game can basically immediately end as your dog can attack the mayor and kill him in certain versions of the game. Yeah, he just gets his fucking shit mauled off, dude. Jesus. So yeah, Harvest Moon DS isn't messing around, but the specific secret we are talking about today is how to court and wed the witch princess, who is the evil version of the harvest goddess, who are both uniquely weddable in Harvest Moon DS. The witch princess can be found in the town near the mansion in a hut where you can find her occasionally throughout the day doing witch shit, dude. She's got a big brewing up in here, dude. She is, for lack of a better word, the harvest goddess's rival, and even accidentally cast a spell turning the goddess into stone when she was just trying to simply mute her, which in my opinion is still pretty fucked up, but hey, at least you're not stone, you're just quiet. Not only does she basically seal the goddess in a pretty horrible fate, she also encourages the player and other townspeople to partake in evil things, which can include quite a number of things, including gameplay elements even. If you would like to wed the witch princess, you will have to fully dive into the most evil mindset and complete different little milestones to even get the chance to see her heart events. Some of these things vary in degeneracy, but some include littering a certain number of times, trying to leave the valley a certain number of times, passing out a certain number of times, and by far the worst and the darkest, reaching a certain number of animal deaths on your farm. Not only morally is it pretty bad, but from a pure business perspective, you're committing a farm suey, dude. That's all I'm saying. If you're still able to look past a couple tins of cows and farm animals passing away under your care, then hey man, get ready for a fruitful marriage. Hell yeah. The number fluctuates from what I've seen online, but it seems the lowest number is at least 50 of your farm animals dead, but I've seen reports that it needs to be closer to 100. Yeah, man, imagine that. Killing 100 cows just to marry the Minecraft witch. Bro, it's almost like when you go for the witch princess, you were speedrunning the game over for the game, and it fits so well for this evil character they made. This is definitely third playthrough type stuff, as I couldn't imagine sacrificing my entire business for some witch. This is a fully unique secret to Harvest Moon DS, as besides a few hidden scenes or something, nothing directly ties to how many animals die in the series before. So this one seems weirdly dark, especially for a bachelor that you have to assume many players would have wanted to try to wed. I like the idea that to achieve something in the game, you basically have to do the opposite of what a successful farm would be. It's an interesting way to see the player's corrupt morals, and a pretty chalk deal for all the farm animals in that game. Who knew you could be this down bad even in video games, dude? I'm sorry, cows. I'm so fucking lonely. Listen, I can hear the comments now, right? Stating that Twilight Princess is not whatsoever a family-friendly game. And hey, I'd mostly agree with you. Anyone who has played Twilight Princess realizes just how dark the game gets. But to be honest, unless you're looking under the hood, it's just another Zelda game, right? That's not to say that Zelda games aren't terrifying at times, but we should also take into account that, at least on the surface, these are family-friendly games. So, like, Grandma isn't gonna know the main villain gets impaled and explodes at the end like Norman Osborn. She's gonna see Link chilling with a cute wolf on the cover, and boom, that bitch is in your stocking. The overall tone and world of Twilight Princess is already much visually darker than any other Zelda games, but it isn't until you start to dissect the story and the events in the game that it starts to become pretty clear just how dark Twilight Princess really is. I'd argue that Twilight Princess is still the darkest in the series, but this is also coming from me who hasn't beaten Tears of the Kingdom yet. One of the big things that makes Twilight Princess so eerie and creepy is the main villain known as Zant, or rather the Usurpr King Zant, if we're getting proper about it. Zant rules the Shadow Realm but sees himself as the rightful king of the Twilight Realm and ends up overthrowing Midna, who he thinks unfairly obtained this throne before Twilight Princess even begins. Visually, he is super uncanny and resembles some of the most horrific enemies in video games like Pyramid Head, just due to this huge emotionless helmet he wears everywhere. It's not like his face is less frightening underneath, but this guy just oozes a creepy negative aura. He's got the aura dead of a lifetime, that's all I'm saying. I mean, find a scene with him in the game where he isn't acting like Michael Myers incarnate, brother. Zant is the embodiment of evil and is by far more powerful than any opponent Link has faced up until this point. Sure, most of his abilities do come from Ganondorf possessing him, but still, he's pulling out some tricks I haven't seen Ganondorf utilize before. I guess one man's moveset is another guy's keys to the nukes. He's also one of the purest forms of evil you could be, as in he is evil in an attempt to gain power and ruling over lands, leading him to destroying everything in his journey to attain that power, hell, even himself after he is fully defeated. By the way, a little side tangent, this has to be one of the coldest exits for a Nintendo villain. In my and many others' interpretations, at this moment, Zant realizes that Ganon was capping the whole time about being able to revive Zant, and Zant simply cracks his own neck, severing their connection, and ending not only himself, but Ganon as well in this moment. It's like that guy on TikTok who proves shit wrong, but if he took it way too seriously, you'd call it like cap or crack your own fucking neck. Zant is everything but a modern day war criminal, doing everything to get ahead, including sacrificing his own people to become soulless twilight creatures, lying about sparring the Hylians during his attack on Hyrule just to turn them into these the garden light fixtures you see in suburban areas, and countless other atrocities. It's only when he is actually challenged by Link when he begins to freak out and show his full power, giving it his all, only to ultimately be stopped by Link and Midna in the end. Zant shows a pretty realistic warpath to the top, burning everything and everyone along the way, just to end up alone with some loser who the only way to stop is by killing yourself. Nice. Yeah, I'd say there's probably a better hand in that deck to draw, I'm not gonna lie. Zant's downfall is one of the most satisfying in gaming because you really have to earn it, or it feels like that anyway, and it almost feels like conquering fear itself when you finally defeat him. At least in the Twilight Realm, dude, I don't know, shit gets spooky down here, dude. It's still some of the best villain writing I've seen, especially from Nintendo. I swear, man, this Miyamoto guy, where'd they get this guy? I feel like I've never heard of him. This must be his only credit or something. They really needed to get this guy making video games again or something, man. Get this guy locked the fuck back in. Meta Night Motel, dude. It's coming to Nintendo Land. You get to stay in the park overnight. If you're a longtime viewer of the channel, you know that one of my biggest fears is the ocean and subsequently the stuff in the ocean. Like, hey man, if there was nothing in the ocean, I'll take the deadly natural forces of the ocean over a shark tickling my toes, honestly. I think a lot of this fear comes from things like video games and stuff like Shark Week in the early 2000s, making sharks out to be this menace of the ocean. Sure, it's not like shark attacks don't happen, but it's definitely not as prominent as it was made out to be in culture the past couple of decades. And it's certainly not something to be feared as someone who doesn't go to the ocean but once every 5 years, you know? However, without fail, I always get mentions of different games featuring their versions of their creepy thalassophobia enemy, which many times will be a shark. I've talked about things in the past like the lurker shark from Jak and Daxter, so think of that entry, but this time we're covering quite a few shark-related entries you guys have left down below. These all come from different games, but I think all captured the terrifying nature of sharks, which is half fear of an actual dinosaur chowing down on you, and half the idea of not knowing where it is in the murky waters down below. Let's go ahead and dive into 3 games that feature sharks in the same terrifying light as the quality programming of Discovery in the early 2000s. Woo! Chef's kiss. Trust I was always ready to hightail it to the middle of the US every spring when they start running those Shark Week ads, man. Catch you guys in the winter, bro. I'm staying landlocked. I'm unfortunately pretty uncultured when it comes to Spyro, as I've ever only completed the first game. Similar to Crash Bandicoot, once I beat the first game, bro, I was done with it. I was done with Spyro for a minute, bro. It was too much. Therefore, I never got to experience the horror that is the metal sharks in Spyro 2. Per this suggestion, I thought this was a great fit, as not only does it poke at my thalassophobia, but it also reminds me of my own similar experiences with video game sea creatures, specifically the mechanical shark from Donkey Kong 64. However, unlike that fish, the sharks in Spyro are unlike any other underwater enemy I've seen in a 3D game, as they are so hard-pressed to get some of Spyro's meat, it's honestly inspiring. And hey, that's not even a pause, because you literally get one shot eaten by these things. They are hungry for Spyro's meat. They roam the Aquaria Towers level and are by far the most iconic part of this level. Not only are these things basically the 3D version of Bessie from Super Mario Bros. 3, what with being able to one-shot Spyro, but they also defy the game's logic just to get to snack on some Spyro, good old Spyro, fried Spyro. That's because if you aggro the sharks enough, they can end up clipping through walls to get to Spyro, fully leaving segments they shouldn't leave. This isn't even the worst case of these buggy-ass sharks in action, as there are videos of the sharks spawning out of their respective areas and one-shotting the player in a jump scare fashion. He just decided to teleport and eat Spyro. I'm not sure if it's just poor programming on the part of these specific enemies, but they are by far some of the buggiest in the game. And of course, right, it's gotta be one of the creepiest enemies in the game to have this. Great. These were, of course, brought back in the Spyro Reignited trilogy, where they are all still pretty intimidating, but definitely look more like actual robot sharks, and overall lose a little bit of their creep factor here. Just from the videos I've seen of people quickly dunking themselves into the water before the sharks all just immediately start chasing Spyro, it's pretty terrifying and hits that anxiety that a lot of these moments in games share. The anxiety of being chased by something big, and for me that's just amplified even more when I'm underwater. So thanks again for this entry. Once again, a great fit and definitely a bit too terrifying for those who had to suffer through Aquaria Towers. Just get your skill up. Get good, as Cranky would say, and you can fly through it like this guy did. Map boundaries are always an interesting way for a developer to get a little creative, and as long as you're not Nintendo, these things are usually more than just an invisible wall. Often open world games that have expansive maps that want to sell the idea of the map being endless will set up more natural reasons you can't just leave the respective map. In a game like LEGO City Undercover that takes place in a city on an island, much like New York City, the map barriers act much like GTA 4's, where you would need to swim to see the map barrier. However, instead of just swimming out into the vast nothingness off the coast of Liberty City, in LEGO City Undercover, if you swim out into the ocean too far, you will be instantly eaten by a large LEGO shark. Much like the sharks in Spyro 2, the shark here will insta-kill you in one bite and largely comes out of nowhere. You have no real indication of when this guy is going to pop up. This serves as a pretty mean map boundary and scared a lot of kids playing this back in the day because, of course, it's a LEGO game. A bunch of kids would be trying this out and playing this game, you know, it's an open world LEGO game. Why not check the map boundary? Sure, it's not all that scary looking at it now as a fucking LEGO shark, but if you put yourself in the time and place, I think it could be pretty terrifying to run across in an otherwise friendly LEGO game. Checking map boundaries is one of my favorite things to do in games that allow it anyway. So I know 100% this would have got me had I played it back in the day when it first came out on Wii U. Thanks for the suggestion. Glad to know even in LEGO form, sharks are still pretty terrifying. Somehow, some way, Disney and Pixar keeps making its way back into this godforsaken series. What can you say? They know how to make a really good horror game, I guess. The last example of a shark we have today is from the suggestion which brings up Finding Nemo, Nemo's Underwater World of Fun, a game I completely forgot existed, and I'm pretty sure I played it at some point at my cousin's house, I think. I don't remember getting super far into the game, at least reaching the point where the gang runs into the infamous Bruce the Shark. If you know anything about Finding Nemo, Bruce is already pretty intimidating in the movie, so most video game adaptations are going to be just that much more horrifying because they don't have that Pixar money for the animations behind them. In Nemo's Underwater World of Fun, Bruce shows up as a mini game where you must bounce a ball of food into Bruce's mouth to feed him, keeping his hunger for marlin at bay, which the scariest part of the segment comes if you miss too many balls in Bruce's mouth. Just the biggest pause ever. I'll take a pause after that one. If you fail, the minigame will end and Bruce will basically jump scare the player as he darts out towards the player with the biggest, darkest pupils you've ever seen. Kind of like he does in the actual movie. Considering the player base and the kids watching the film, I think this scared a lot of kids back in the day. Also considering how many likes this comment got, seems like old Bruce caught a lot of us lacking back in the day. I'm really not surprised. That whole part of the movie was really scary as a kid, so to see a worse version of it played out in a video game, really no wonder why it's stuck with so many gamers. Again, thanks for sharing, and always remember, fish are friends, not food. Psych, I'd be playing the fuck out of some Dave the Diver, bro. I don't give a fuck about these fishes. I think if you polled a lot of people, Family Feud style, they describe SpongeBob as a bad acid trip. But what if it actually was? Introducing SpongeBob Nighty Nightmare, that was released for the PC back in 2006, when SpongeBob was in his heyday with several successful games at that point. To show the PC player base some love, Nighty Nightmares was developed as a budget PC title, released alongside this other SpongeBob game, which I forget the name of now, that saw 3 SpongeBob characters in an isometric view playing through different dream segments. You will play as SpongeBob, Patrick, and Plankton, respectively, with each having 2 dreams to play through total. Each character has both a good dream and a nightmare to play through, with all of the good dreams reflecting what the characters are known to like from the show. For example, Plankton's dream sees him as a huge kaiju version of himself terrorizing Bikini Bottom. Unlike other games we talk about where it's just a segment of a particular game or maybe an ending or something, this game as a whole is kind of the scary part. Once you start to look closer at the gameplay and cutscenes, you'll quickly start to notice what I'm talking about here. Firstly, all of the characters feel so lifeless with minimal amounts of animation done to their faces, and what is done is super uncanny. Not only that, but the animation style is what I can best describe as an Adult Swim cartoon that was turned down, never funded, never even picked up. Things like this scene, dude. I mean, just know I didn't do any extra editing to this next scene, okay?
That pea-brained hero has foiled my plans for the last time!
Oh no! What is Bikini Bottom to do in this hour of need?
Yeah, I don't think Patrick as the Left 4 Dead tank was on anybody's bingo cards today, but there you go, there's something new. Any number of the cutscenes from this game can be looked at as terrifying. I mean, like, what the fuck is Squidward on in the background during this, dude? Bro's off that chum bucket pack. Each level pretty much plays the same, besides maybe SpongeBob and Plankton's Good Dream, where you are walking around in an isometric level, completing a small objective. I must say the beat-to-beat gameplay seems kind of boring, but what other game lets you beat the shit out of a 50-foot Mr. Krabs kaiju as Plankton? I mean, I gotta give it some flowers there. Overall, if it were made in any other time period or with any more quality, it wouldn't even be a conversation right now, but the strange way the game was made, along with the artistic choices like putting the jank 3D models over stills from the show, is kind of insane to see in a finished project, and honestly pretty horrifying. You'd be pretty hard-pressed to find a stranger SpongeBob game than this, I think. And at the end of the day, it almost seems more like a SpongeBob parody project by Meat Canyon or something, rather than an actual Nickelodeon-approved game. Thanks for sharing this nightmare fuel of a game that I wouldn't have known about otherwise. Old SpongeBob games are usually overshadowed by the heaters like Battle for Bikini Bottom or other console versions, so it's nice to see some more unique, unhinged old PC games this time around. Yet another video where I get to talk about the strangest game library I've seen ever to exist yet. The Amiga. A lot of these games are pretty odd ducks, being visually surreal and not really fitting with the norm of the games around that time. We covered games like Waxworks and Top Banana in the past on the channel, which are both respectively disturbing, but today's game takes things to a whole nother level. Weird Dreams was released in 1989 on several platforms, including the Amiga and MS-DOS, and while it feels aged, it definitely still holds up to today's horror standard at least. There isn't a whole lot to the actual game besides visiting a few different levels, dying a bunch, and either giving up or making it to the next screen just to die in an impossible to escape way yet again. So yeah, I don't know if Weird Dreams is so good in terms of an actual video game, but I do know that visually it stands out from pretty much all the rest. Immediately starting Weird Dreams, you're met with a creepy screen of a first-person perspective looking up at a bunch of surgeons and doctors and such. From here, you're transported into the dream world where you first spawn into a giant cotton candy machine. Sounds like a blast. Sounds like any kid's dream, right? Wrong, buddy. This is immediately where the difficulty of the game becomes apparent, because at the end of the day, it's a game of trial and error until you figure out the way forward. To get out of the giant cotton candy machine, for example, you'll need to time your jump onto the spinning mechanism, which then raises you out of the machine. This is way easier said than done, too, because this guy moves like he's off some Xannies. His reaction time is shit, dude. You'll need to give this guy at least a 2-second head start with each move if you want to actually connect with shit in this game. After escaping the cotton candy machine is where the game really opens up and starts to become extra strange. Turns out you're stuck in an amusement park with the only way to go is into the mirror maze, as you are chased by a giant wasp if you try to do anything otherwise. From the mirror room, you can enter one of 4 mirrors that each make up the entrance to each 4 of the levels. Each level has several screens of damn near impossible traps to get past that each vary in bullshit and also being pretty terrifying. When I played the game, I could only get through one of these levels and not even fully, so I had to look up the rest of the game here on YouTube. And man, even though there's only 4 levels, they pack a lot of weird shit in here. This comes mostly through the enemies, which includes some wild shit like a small girl with a Michael Myers knife and a killer soccer ball to boot. You can run into these ancient alien Moai turkey things in the desert level before killing their leader, all of which are insanely surreal to see, much less to fight. Then you got the jester level. I mean, at least us forget the jester level. It might be the most terrifying overall, whether or not you have a fear of clowns, but hey, that shit definitely won't help here. Overall, the level is pretty short, but once you grab the electric eel at the end, you'll be taken back to the mirror maze before the wasp from earlier breaks through the main mirror, and you'll have to fight it mano-y-mano with the electric eel. After defeating the wasp, the last level will unlock, which is by far the most terrifying, as it features an endless repeating hallway with 2 doors, and one of the grossest, most fucked up enemies I've ever seen. I mean, what the hell is this? It looks like if a Thanksgiving turkey grew a fucking wolf's mouth. After that atrocity of a level is over with, you will ultimately go back to the desert to fight a mother brain type of enemy as the final boss of the game, and that wraps up your surreal nightmare before you wake back up on the operating table. Congrats, you did it, right? One of the doctors will remove their mask and reveal a woman with a giant creepy smile and a knife before she lunges at you and the game ends. Yeah man, what a trip. I think the game captures the randomness and creepiness of dreams in real life to a T, and stands up there with games like the aforementioned LSD Dream Emulator. The horrors in the game feel like anything you could have dreamt of as a kid having a nightmare, and to play through it is very surreal. I think Weird Dreams visually represents the wackiness of the Amiga perfectly, and I'm glad I was finally able to cover this strange-ass game because I've been looking at it a lot recently. If you'd like to see me play through the game while I captured footage for this video, maybe consider subscribing to the members part of the channel, where you'll unlock some extra gameplay videos like this one that I otherwise wouldn't release. Anyways, that is about all I have for you today. I hope you all have a great Halloween and get a chance to play some of your favorite spooky games this season, whether that be some blatant horror games or games like we talked about today that hide their creepy nature under the hood. You'll have to do a little mechanic work to find that shit. Thank you all for rocking with me and this series recently, and I'll see you all again soon. Make sure to subscribe to stay up to date on video releases, including new episodes of this series, and don't forget to leave your own suggestions once again for a chance for me to cover them in a future video. Thanks again, everyone, and I'll see you next time. Peace.